Thank you all so much for coming. The Amarillo Public Library is delighted to be able to serve as the venue for this author talk and book signing. My name is Stacy Yates, and I am the Public Relations Coordinator for the Amarillo Public Library. If you are not already on my email list and you would like to receive emails from me about once a month so that you know about events like this and other things that are happening at the library, I'd love to give you one of my business cards, and then you can just send me an email and say, add me to your list, and I will. But I think we'll just go ahead and get started. We are very happy that William Matson and Floyd Clown and Doug War Eagle are here to teach us more about Crazy Horse, and they are the experts, so I'm going to step aside and let them do the talking.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the introduction. My name is William Matson, and of course Floyd Clown and Doug War Eagle are the grandsons. I'm the author. This is our 105th now.
Yeah.
This is our 105th book signing.
Wow.
So we've been doing this since 2016, and at each place they've always asked the same question. So we're going to get that out of the way right now. How did I get hooked up with the Crazy Horse family? Well, that happened before I was born. My dad was in the 7th Cavalry during World War II, and they used to ask in basic training who won the Battle of the Little Bighorn, and he said that the Indians did, and that was the wrong answer, and he was punished for it. And apparently he held a grudge because I'm his son. So he wanted to write a book on the native side of the battle. But life got in the way, raising a family, and then in late in life he started to write one, but he got lymphoma. And so on his deathbed, he asked me to do it. Well, at the time it wasn't my deal, but it was my dad's. But you can't say no. So I said yes. And I got to looking at things, and I found there weren't very many native voices in the history. Some guy would write a book, and he'd have a theory about what happened, and then the next guy would write a book, and he'd borrow something from the other book and put it in the bibliography, and so suddenly that theory became a fact, because now it's in the bibliography, and all the history is getting all messed up. So I got on the internet in 1999, and there weren't a lot of, it was pretty immature at that time, and I did find an email address. The IT guy at the Dull Knife College in the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. His name was Eugene Little Coyote. And I called him up, and I called from Portland, Oregon. He was in Lame Deer, Montana. And I said, do you have any stories of the Battle of the Bighorn? Yep. Can I come out and get them from you? Yep. So I got on an airplane and flew out to Billings and rented a car and went to Lame Deer. And I don't think he expected me to show up. I got in his office and I said, I'm the guy from Portland that called about stories about the Battle of Little Bighorn. Do you have them for me? No. Do you know somebody that does? He said, come with me, and he took me into the library and said, read all these, and walked away. So I did. I read about 300 books, and they didn't come together at all. You had people that would take things from quotes from here and quotes from there and quotes from over here and put it together like a jigsaw puzzle and say, well, this piece is blue, must be sky. Well, not necessarily. So So and also I became interested in Crazy Horse. And I noticed there weren't, the names of the women that raised Crazy Horse weren't in any of the books. And I figured, well, that was only 125 years ago. Somebody knows. And so, I got back on the internet in 2001, and I got in touch with somebody at the Cheyenne River Reservation who said he might know somebody that might know the names. And that's all it took. I got on a plane to come out and meet him, and we had a meeting planned, and he stood me up. So I had 3 days where I didn't have anything to do. So I had just been studying the history side and not the spiritual side of the Lakota. And so I decided, well, I got all this time. I think I'll go to Bear Butte and check that out. Being a typical white guy, all the spirituality happens at the top, right? Well, halfway up, my dad spoke to me. He said, open your heart. And I knew what that meant. It meant I needed to know the spiritual side of the Lakota. So I went home and I read all the things that I skipped, and each they had ceremonies in there, and each one said this is the only way you do the ceremony, but they're all different. So I came back to Bear Butte, and I talked to Jim Jandro, who was head ranger. He was a Dakota, and I was explaining, wanting to know more about Lakota culture and Crazy Horse's moms. They said, I got something for you. Gave me Doug's number. So I called Doug up, and he said, yeah, come on out. I was a documentary filmmaker, so I was working on a script for Crazy Horse, a movie script. And when I arrived there, they greeted me at the door and said, yeah, we've been expecting you. We knew you were coming from the West. Well, at the time, it sounded to me like just something out of a movie script, you know. But there was a meaning behind what they were talking about. But at the time, I didn't know what that was. Well, they invited me in, and I had my script, and I'd been working real hard on it, really getting into the detail of everything. And I mean, this is what I was working on for my dad who had passed, and so it was, you know, it was kind of precious to me. And I gave it to Floyd to read. He read three words and threw it down on the table and said, "This is garbage." So I pretended like I wasn't hurt, and they said, "We'll tell you the true story if you have a good heart." So I was wondering, well, how do I show I have a good heart? And they said, well, we'll take you to the sweat lodge. I said, oh, good. I was reading about that. I was excited to do that. So they started the fire, and we're bringing the wood. I started helping wood, and then pretty soon I was sprinting, and everybody was watching me. And I guess I was over the top with excitement to do that. I remember one of them saying, "This guy kind of scares me." So we went in the sweat, and they sang in Lakota and prayed in Lakota, and it was a wonderful experience. I found it just really a great experience. But afterwards, nobody said whether my heart was good, and so the silence was deafening. I was wondering, you know, did I pass or not or what? And so we went inside to eat, and while we were eating, I said, "I wish I knew your language. I would have sang with you." And the firekeeper would stay on the outside, never came in the sweat lodge, just brought the rocks in on a pitchfork and opened and closed the door. He said, "They don't let me in there because I sing Merle Haggard." And at that point, I realized I had been accepted. It was actually kind of funny, one of the funniest things I'd ever heard, because I was kind of tense at the time. So it was a real relief. Well, we spent the next 12 years going out and looking at their oral history sites. Each one has a landmark or a point of reference, And I had my camera, and I was filming this for the relatives that couldn't get out there, that couldn't, go up on a butte or out in the field. And so I had the opportunity to see all these sites. And originally I was not scheduled to write the book, but the guy that was had to go to Afghanistan, so they decided to ask me if I could do it, if I would do it, and I was honored because I'd seen all the sites already and everything. So I had a visual picture of what they were talking about. These kind of books of the oral histories, I gotta say, their oral history makes a lot more sense than anything else that was ever out there. Having gone and seen the sites, I knew it was the truth. They belong in the schools. This should be in the schools. The North or this hemisphere's history. There we go. This hemisphere's history did not start with Christopher Columbus. It started long before that. And one of the things that I discovered is when I first got to know them, a lot of their relatives, they talked about being on the Owl River. And the Owl River on the map is the Amarillo River. Well, I went out there with my camera to take a shot of the Owl River. And as I got up to the edge of the bank and the reeds, out came two great big owls. It scared the bejeebers out of me. Those were big birds. And at that point, I realized that the names that they had described what was there. Like the Cheyenne River was the good river. It was a good river because it was clear and it tasted good. Things like that. And so there's a connection to the land just through the names. And then, they're renamed Amarillo River, Cheyenne River, which meant nothing. It doesn't tell what's there at all. They also know their genealogy extremely well. Have it all documented, everything's down, the probates are in the back, and there's a link at the front of the appendix where you can go online and see them larger because the publisher made little postage stamps. So there's nothing to hide, so you can do that at your leisure. But it made me realize that I didn't know mine, and as well as they knew theirs. So I was fortunate enough to know somebody that was interested from Norway, that was interested in native culture, and he helped me find my background of where this comes from. That's why I'm wearing it. This book is in Norwegian, and it's also in German. So it's starting to go around the world, getting the truth out, and letting people know how it really was, and not this Hollywood chief stuff and the big headdress and all that stuff. That was not the way it was. It's been a really great experience working with them, and this is our 105th book signing. So when I wrote it took a year. It took 6 months of corrections, and that's why we can stand up here and at the 105th book signing after traveling halfway across the nation in a car and staying in the same room all the time. So I'm gonna pass this along to Floyd, and he's the eldest of the two brothers here, and he's going to say a few words.